Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahmam, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Akanta Mantalakaram, Yaptam Yena Chiracharam, Tatpadam Darishtam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sadashiva Shamarambam, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryanda, Vande Guru Parampara. Namaskaram. Hope Balaji recovers very fast so that we can get the Gita Amritam from the next classes. So we will stick with maybe 1 hour, maybe 5-10 minutes, maybe a little bit more. Let's see how it goes. So in hearing the lives of the sages that we started, it is not that we try to understand their biography completely. It's very difficult to do, but we try to take some lessons from their life, how they lived the life. Because of this the penchant of science for all self-abnegation and their desire not to reveal about themselves, many a times we do not know their true history. But it's very important to have the history known, even for the spiritual progress. Truth is just one. Therefore, if you want to reveal truth, if you want to learn truth, understand truth, the same thing has to be repeated again and again and again, maybe in different words. Sometimes it gets very bored. Ekam satyam, tattvamasi, aham brahmasmi. All these Mahavakyas reveal the truth, but it doesn't really get the grip into us. That's the reason why the scholars have brought the Puranas and Itikasas into this. Itikasa means iti ahas. This happened, history. So by bringing stories of legends and life, the same truth is given in a sweet pill. So we like it. But the Itikasa is not just Ramayana and Mahabharata alone. They are Maha-Itikasas. Any life history is an Itikasa. This happened. That's what Itikasa means. So when the life histories of sages are known, we understand in those time frame what the sages have done for us. You see, when the jnana is gone, ajnanam comes in, counter thoughts comes in, then says an avatara comes, like Mahasha, Adishankara, to re-establish jnana. When the bhakti derodes, bhakti is not there anymore, dry philosophy comes in, then comes Mahatmas like Ramanuja, bring back bhakti into this. But bhakti also get degenerated sometimes, very often. I mean, in the 13th, 14th, 15th centuries in India, bhakti was really at the lowest of the ebb. Upasana becomes very ritualistic, tantric. Even they call it 5 makaras, my 5 yams, like mamsa, madhu, maitunam, matsya, like that. They have get involved in not so pious practices. Then you have these kapalikas, kaumaras of Saivites, Veera Vaishnavas. So there was a fight going on. The high orthodox Brahminical class was raising a hand in a karma mimamsa and purva mimamsa. Everybody started forgetting the simplest of truth that love is God. It is open for everybody. So that time you need to have some Mahans to come. So Sri Ramachandra, the Ramanama, the Rama Bhakti has eroded in the 3rd, 10th, 11th century onwards, eroding the back seat. Even the Krishna Bhakti has taken a different tweak because the Rasa Krida and the Radha Krishna relationship has taken as an illicit relationship, and there are a lot of cult, especially in northern India. Lord says, Parameshwara said to Parvati, Sri Rama Rameti, Rame Rame Manorame, Sahasranama Tattulyam, Rama Nama Manorame. So the Rama Nama is the most important thing to do. So to bring back the Nama Bhajan, Nama Sankirtanam, we saw Jnaneshwar coming in the 11th century. At the same time, there are a lot of Mahans came in. There's one particular Mahatma who just took penance on just single focus on Ramanama and brought about an outpouring of bhajans, songs, kirtanas, verses, dohas. It's nothing other than Goswami Tulsidas. So today I thought we will invite Saint Tulsidas to a satsang. By remembering his life, we can try to understand how we make a course correction. Again, Tulsidas' life is again a mystery, and there are lots of legends. So Beni Madhava is the one who writes about 2 books about Tulsidas, but both has got contradictions. And there's Tulsi Charita, run by one Mahatma called Raghuvardha. Then Goswami Charita is a very monumental work in somewhere in 1754. And there are what's called Karna Parampara, you know. Karna means ears. Karna Parampara means just hearsay, hearsay. And we call it a different name today. We call it WhatsApp messages and whatever. It's still again a news, a gossip, a rumor. So there are many such stories about Saint Tulsidas, but we just take the important points. So it was in the year 1532. So a child was born to a very simple, poor parents, the Brahmin parents, in a place called Rajapur. Rajapur is in somewhere near Allahabad in UP. So Atmaram Dubey or Atmaram Shukla, they have different names. And Halsi Devi. Halsi Devi is very clear mother's name of Tulsidas because he himself mentioned that later. So in 1532, after a very laborious pregnancy, almost 12 months, the fetus was in the womb. Then a child was born. The child did not cry. And they say a lot of things about the child had 32 tooth and all kind of stuff, but child was not crying for some time. When normally they say when the child doesn't cry, it could be a jnani, because what happened in the gestation time in the mother's womb, the jivatma goes through the recognition of what is happening in the past life and what life it's going to have, what embodiment is coming. So it is very frightened, it cries. Then in one of those pranavayas called Shata, the Shata Vayu embraces the womb, and when the fetus turns the head down, the wind caresses the head of the child. By caressing it, it takes away all the memory. Because memory is dangerous to have memory sometimes. Therefore, it is getting ready to forget everything and take a new embodiment. I remember, in very Saint Namalvar's case, Namalvar is called Shadakopar. We go to the Vaishnavic temples, you see there is a kind of a crown there on the feet of the Lord. And when you worship, they take this jadari and they put on everybody's head. Shadakopar. Namalvar's case, the same thing. So he got angry. Kopa means angry. He got angry at this Shada Vayu not to touch him, so that he comes with a complete jnanam of his past life, present life, and future life. And also in Namarvar's case, the same thing. When he was born, he was not crying. So this child was not crying. They were fascinated. But also it was born in a star and a time they call Abhukta Moolam. It's not a very Ashuddham, it's Ashubham. In those days, especially in northern India, this kind of belief in astrology is very, very heavy. They all said that this child is an evil to you. It will be bad for the parents. As if to prove this, the mother dies after 5 days. So Atmanam, the father, get very worried. He's already impoverished. The child, take away the mother. The child is a bad omen. So what do? He didn't even call the child by any name. There's no naming ceremony. He didn't invite anybody. After a few days, he just absconds because he heard from a priest that either you abandon the child or don't look at the child for 8 years. So, supposition. So he leaves this, and there was a Dadi called Muni. Muni was a nurse who was attending to the child. The Muni's mother-in-law, Chunia, her name. Chunia did compassion about the child. She takes it home. So in a little hut, she's bed dressing, carrying him, giving him food. And the child, instead of crying, it cries like the sound of Rama. So they call it Rambola. Rambola means the person or child or someone who says Rama's name. So the child just grows. Again, maybe the fate of the child after 6 years or maybe 5 years of age, the caretaker dies. So he was left to our own means. It wanders around the place, begging for food, simply calling Rama, 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 Rama. This was a time the bhakti is degenerated. If you recall, this is happening in the 16th century. Ramanuja came in the 11th century, in 1017 to 1137, he was there. He inculcated bhakti, brought people together to worship Mahavishnu as a Parabrahman. In his footsteps, there are a lot of great saints come. Swami Ramananda was a great disciple of the lineage of Ramanujacharya, great Vaishnavite. And then in his advent, many people followed, like the Kabir Das, the weaver, Dhana, the peasant, Sena, the barber, Kripa, the king, Raidas, cobbler, then, Kabir Das, Surdas, now you see, Mirabai, all those saints all followed the same route of taking the bhakti cult into the degenerated state to an elevated state, simply using Nama. Of course, largely Krishna Nama. So this Ramananda's disciple one of the disciples was Swami Naraharidas. So he's a very pious man, and in his dream, this instruction comes from his guru that you have to go and take care of one orphan boy and teach him Ramayana. So he looks for this boy. Who is this boy? I should adopt. And then you see this boy shouting Ram, Ram, Ram. And he goes and picks him up and says, look, you are no more Anadi. I am taking care of you. Come with me. So he takes him to Ayodhya. In Ayodhya, he calls him, he gives a new name. He gives him Tulasi Ram. Tulasi, And he's a Rama Bhakta. He takes him to Ayodhya and he shows Rama's place, teaches him about Ramayana. So in this young mind of Tulasi Ram, Rama's heroic life becomes an imprint, a very strong imprint. Then after 10 months, he takes him to a place called Sugar Gate or Sugar Chetra. It's somewhere close to Ayodhya. And then there the Guru and the Sishya stays for 10 years. This 10 years, he inculcates him, he gives him a lot of, not 10 years, maybe 5 years was that. Give him lots of knowledge. And then he thinks this stage has come. He has to be given Upanayana. So he is giving this boy to another saint called Sesha Sanatana. So this saint takes him and he gives him the Upanayana and he takes him to Benares, Kashi. And then he renames him to Tulsidas. See, Dasa is a very important phrase. It is the title that, like, in Shaivas they call it Adiyar, Vaishnavas call it Dasa. So from moving away from the Advaitam, the high profound mystic knowledge that is very difficult to comprehend, very easily mistaken, then the Acharya has given, park it aside. Imagine that there is a supreme God, your manager, your Lord, your Swaminathan. You become a servant to them, servitude. So Dasa means to be surrendering, to be a permanent slave, permanent worker. Now, why do we do that? Because this way, in very simple terms, you have a very great, powerful force above you that will take care of you. Therefore, you just, like a child looking up to the father, the person looking up to the boss, the citizen looking up to the king. You look up to the king, the God. The other important understanding is that by Dasa means you have nothing to own, you give everything to the God. So once you give everything to the God, your papa punya, your worries, everything is gone to the God, you become a true karma yogi. So the bhakti in surrender is a true karma yoga. So this is what has been inculcated by the Dasa Bhava. And who else is the perfect example of Dasa is Lord Anjaneya, and who is in the Ramayana. So he call him Tulsidasa and gives him more Ramayana and puts him into the, in Benares is a place of scholastic learning, great science. He goes there and learns Sanskrit grammar, and he becomes a wonderful young man with full of knowledge, full of bhakti. And he started giving discourses also to other people, what he learned. Then the Guru says maybe he should enter into the Grihastha. So he was married to a girl called Ratnavali. There's a Pandit called Dinabandhu, but in the village. They come back to the Rajapur, and he got married to Ratnavali. And she's a very beautiful lady, very pious lady. And he got married and they lived together happily for 15 years or so. In fact, when they got married, the first child was born. They call him Taragadas. Taraka is Rama Mantram, Taraka Mantram. The child was, after I think a couple of months, child dies. But he is so fond of his wife. So he almost become interested in being with her all the time. So whenever you go for Upanyasam, lecture, Pravachanam, he will rush to home to see his wife. The prema was so thick and dense. And there's a story that once I think Ratnavali had to see her father. So her brother comes to her house and so they go together. And she writes a note, I'll come back. But when he comes back, he could not see his wife. Now, as soon as he comes home, he would like to see his wife and she's not there. He looks around, he sees the chit, she's not there yet. And instead of waiting for her to come in the night, it started pouring, it's raining, lightning, thunder. He goes and he couldn't find anybody to take him to the other side of the river. Therefore, she wants to reach that other shore and start swimming. And the Yamuna River, which flows full of floods, it also carries a lot of corpses. Now people leave their dead body into that. And she's actually holding a dead body to help him swim across. And he goes there, and legend also says that he got hold of a snake and climbed the ladder to a house and all that. Anyway, with great difficulty, with passion, he goes there and meet Ratnavali and say, "Look, I come to see you. Why are you not there?" It was midnight, and Ratnavali get very ashamed of her husband for the first time. So what is happening to this man? I told him that I'll be back tomorrow. She's also a pretty pious lady, and she's also, a poetry in her all the time. And she chides him, and she tells him, "Kadam mams maya dehmam taso jaisi priti." This body is full of flesh and nerves and pus, and sadly, you are giving lectures about esoteric knowledge, Ramanama, but you are coming for this body. What is wrong with you? If you put this attachment to the Lord, you get redemption, salvation. I think it's not she's not trying to hurt him. They're very innocuous, very gentle, but very assertive words that she made. That is good enough for the mature Tulsidas mind to turn inward. Sometimes you only need that spark. That's the reason why sometimes God gives you trouble. God gives you so many challenges and ordeals, because by pushing you hard, your true nature will come out. And then very little trigger will set the bomb, I remember, in the reading Sadashiva Brahmendra is a great Brahmarishi of South India, one of these heads of the Kanchimat, Avaduta. And when he was young, he was extremely knowledgeable, and he had got a habit of inviting others to challenge, and he argue with them and win them over, And his guru once tells him, in Tamil, he tells him, "Sadashiva, why adakyada? Want your mouth shut?" That's it. That day, he stopped. He used to compose a lot of great songs, Everything stopped. Maunam. So like that, one word will just trigger a great transformation in people's mind. And this happened to Tulsidas. So he says, "I'm leaving." So he's leaving, and he became a very pathetic monk, wandering around, nomad. Wherever he goes, he heals people. He sings songs. His wife was very agonized, and she didn't know that what happened. And then she spends the rest of her life in that river shore, and then she attained salvation. So Tulsidas is known for the magnum opus called Ramacharita Manas. Charita Manas means Manas means mind. Ramacharita Manas means the glory of Rama in the mind. In the mind of who? He's a great devotee of Lord Shiva. So in Lord Shiva's mind, the Ramayana. See, he was, in his mind, Rama, the hero, was a very deep imprint. The Ramanama has somehow taken a backseat, especially even in the Ayodhyas, in the places around the place. And he's also, you see, when the avatars come in, this is a common misconception that we all have. We always judge people, right? We always judge everything, There are even the scholars spend a lot of time to evaluate, is a being as an avatar or not, The avataram means that which descend, that comes down. So comes down doesn't mean the earth is something lower place. In fact, earth was a place, everything happened, and some ascended up and they descend down. So in the devas, Shivamsam, Vishnumsam, Shaktyamsam comes into some being, and they call it avatar. So avatar, when you know somebody's avatar, Mahavatar like Ramavatar, Krishna avatar, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa avatar, Ramana avatar, Sai Baba avatar. All these avatar, when you know, you really find a refuge to take shelter if you are devoted. So you like to know that that person is an avatar. Therefore, you can forget everything else and treat them as God, because we are looking for an excuse to see divinity. What Vedanta say, divinity is everywhere. Mind says, no, divinity is not everywhere. Everything, everywhere is your enemies, your friends, your foes. So we are not able to see divinity everywhere. But the urge to see divinity is always there. So therefore, an avatar comes in, when we know that it's an avatar, when we realize it, we can get hold of them. So the avatar is also a very sweet excuse for us to not take up the challenge of fighting our own ego. Nothing wrong in this. But if you leave the avatar aside, take the other end of it. Someone born in this world and the rises, ascend to the heavens, ascend to the divinity, ascend to the God, becoming God, being God. How exciting it is. What is so big about Parabrahman coming down and do the Leelas and omnipotent? Everything knows. God can do anything. See, you're kind of I won't say mode of bhakti. A bhakti comes in that it's God. God can do anything. An agnostic will come and say, how can he do? But if you take the other way, a man of ordinary mortal who rises up above everybody else, that's inspiring, isn't it? Because if he can do, I can do. Because he's fellow. I know him, he's born to this person, ordinary fellow. He was at my school, I know. Now today he's a saint, he's a CEO, a big company, effort. So of course, the drawback is you get envies and jealous and all that. Valmiki's Ramayana, Rama is Maryada Purushottam. He is a wonderful human being, Narottaman. Because in Ramayana is very seldom Valmiki talks about him as divine being. Dharma Purusha. He doesn't show any miracle. Of course, miracle sometimes comes out of you. Now, we do a lot of miracles. We don't really understand it. When you are truthful, things happen to you, miracle to you. So the miracles coming out of their own manifestation. Nobody does miracle. So therefore, in Rama's life, there's no miracle. He struggled, go through every part of life, and led a life of such a pious nature. So Valmiki maintained the purity of Rama's Charitram. He didn't call it Rama Charitram, he called it Rama Ayanam. Ayanam means path. Uttarayanam, Dakshinayanam, Ramayanam, Ayanam. Rama's path. His writing of Rama's life is to show the Rama's path. Why he shows the path? Because in human being, you should follow the Purushottaman's path, Mahauttaman's path. Therefore, there is no magic, there's nothing. Therefore, perceptibly, there are certain things that Rama did, which is not acceptable. Again, it's not understanding the tattvartham of it, whether it's how he kills Vali, or how he asked Sita to go into the Agni Pariksha. How he sometimes told off the people. How he advised Sugriva, Vibhishna. How he fights against Lava and Kusha. So all that, if you take it as a human being and maybe bring our own judgment, we ignoring that timing and everything, there are tattvarthas for it. So Maharishi Valmiki can say that what he says because his idea is very noble. But over a period of time, Karna Parampara, things deteriorate. So they started abusing stories of Mahapurushas. So what happens, even now we do that, no? When somebody tells you, you want to defend No, Rama did not do it. And with our own yukti, we try to say he did this way. And Krishna was a lot more. No, he challenged us. He made so many things which we see it as adharma, but there's dharma there. So Tulsidas was one of those great devotees of Rama. Therefore, he said, no, there is a different way to understand this. Mahakavi Kambar took Rama as an avatar of Vishnu. So Kamparamayanam, in Rama is not a man from day one. Rama is God, full stop, period. So everything else happens is therefore, in a way, I think Kavi Kambar, who is my favorite, has taken a perfect excuse to do his humanly endeavors so easily, because he already established he's a divine being. So everything human endeavors become a divine endeavor. It goes on like that. There are a lot of Ramayanas like this. But Tulsidas Ramayana is very different. He takes what called Adhyatmika Ramayana as his, because he learns that from in Varanasi as well. And later by Anjaneya, you will hear. See, there's a legend there, in fact. When Bhagavan Anjaneya, who can write about Rama? Who else can write about Rama? It's Bhagavan Anjaneya and Lakshmana. There are two important escorts of Rama and Sita in all their glory. Lakshmana, the Adishesha, and Bhagavan. Even Anjaneya is considered to be Rudra, Parashivas, in one of the form. So Anjaneya writes Ramayana and then takes it to Rama. It's a legend. And tells Rama, because what Rama has done is Rama has given an imprint, a signature, endorsement to Valmiki's Ramayana. Valmiki finished everything, perform the puja and give it to Rama. And Rama says, I hereby certify my life. So when Anjaneya goes and asks Rama, please certify mine, and he says, it's beautiful, but I cannot do. Go and ask Valmiki. He has got the copyright. So he goes to Sage Valmiki and asks him, can you please do this? And he reads it. It's full of devotion, very different perspective. And this Kavi has got this little envy and says, well, you throw it in the ocean. Someday it'll come into life. So Anjaneya takes it in a complete faith and throws it to the ocean, and takes a pratigna in his mind that someday someone will come and rewrite it. So this is kind of a legend. So he wanted to do this Ramacharitamanus. So one day it happens in his dream that he must write Rama's story. Therefore he goes to Ayodhya. And then he prays, and one day it dawns to him. It's, I think, the year 1575. On a day, it's a Ramanavami day, he started writing Sri Ramacharitamanus. Now this is again, he follows the same way like in Shiva Gita, where how Lord Shiva teaches Parvati. See, the greatest doubt came to Mahashakti Parvati. Now, all this is, we have to really thankful to our scholars and science sages. They make it in a kind of a question and answer session, conversation session. Like Bhagavan did the best example in Bhagavad Gita. If you have a question and answer, it's much easier to explain. And in Shiva Gita, Shakti asked Parabrahman. Shiva is sitting there, closing the eyes. And the pranabam, the Rama Japam he is doing, Shakti listens to him and said, you are the ultimate, you are the Parabrahman. And what are you meditating on? Then Shiva says, if you ask me, you already identify me as an object. Then I tell you, the contemplation that I do is on the Parabrahman, which is beyond comprehension. It is indicated by the name Rama. And he talks about the Ramanama Mahima. The same way, Tulsidas writes Ramacharitamanus, purely conversation, Parabrahman, Also, there is a Kakabhushandi. Bhushandi is a crow, is a sage who narrates Ramayana later. So this conversation of this Bhushandi, Shiva, Tulsidas himself saying his own words, and there's a Yajnavalkya coming in between. So these four people talk about Rama. The doubts are raised by Parvati, Garuda, then also some of the sages around the place. So the whole thing about Ramacharitam, in which Rama is Parabrahman himself. Sita is the Mahashakti, Maya. And he being a Vaishnavite, the Parabrahman is Mahavishnu himself. And Shiva's greatest name is Rama. Therefore, the Ramacharita is about Rama's glory that occurs in Shiva's mind. You see, remember this context. Shaivism, Vaishnavism, all fighting each other. Brahminical scholars and the peasants fighting each other. Kabalikas, Tantrikas creating confusion. Islam is ruling the country. Everything is in. So he needs to bring harmony, religious harmony. So what he did, he used a form of dialect called Avadi. It's a form of Hindi dialect, local language in which he started writing Ramacharita. Not in a high-class Sanskrit language, because he knows Sanskrit. He mastered Pannadi grammar. But he wanted to bring in a very simple terms. So he's complete this one in Baiswari and Avadi. He writes it in exquisite devotion, and his demeanor, his approach, his sincerity. So when you start doing pravachanam of this, especially when he comes back to Varanasi, with Ramacharita, he take a couple of copies he written. He started reading this, singing this, and everybody follows him. You know, it's such a strong hold of orthodoxy, Sanskrit learning, erudition, resistance to anything that is unsophisticated. The Brahmins don't like it. Who is this person coming there, sitting in Varanasi in the banks of the river and singing Ramanama from his Ramacharita, and people are just assembling and singing. So they're sending a couple of dacoits, robbers, to go and steal his manuscript, because this man is reading from his script he's written. You know, in those days, there is no computers, there's no way of printing it out. So he's got all those in a kind of wrapped up in his hut. And he's sleeping in his little ashram, little hut in this river Ganges. The thief come there to steal, but they could not enter. They ran away. He tried it 3 or 4 times. One day in the morning when he was doing Sandhyavandanam, these two come to Tulsidas and say, Maharaj, who are those 2 young men at your hut with a bow and arrows? Every time he tried to come and steal your property, he escort your property and then travels away. Tulsidas realized this is Rama and Lakshmana. How come they are not showing themselves to me? They're protecting me. So he throws away all his belongings, give it away, except this Ramacharita. Now his passion changed to not only singing Ramanama, and he wants to see Rama, you know. He is the one who sings, you know, Saguna Brahmam or Nirguna Brahmam. Both are lower than Nama. See, sometimes what's happened, you take Bhagavad Gita. In Gita, Arjuna was suffering. For him, the cure is to fight. In other words, do what he needs to do, what he rightfully needs to do, with the right attitude. Nothing else. That's the solution Bhagavan gives. Therefore, for any problems in this world, in life, the only solution is you have to do what you ought to do rightfully with the right attitude. There is no cure from God. There's no cure for anything. It is you. That's what the Gita's essential message in the first itself in chapter 2. This is what is coming out very loud and clear. Arjuna, don't waste your time crying. Do what you need to do with the right attitude. This he doesn't understand. Then he talks philosophy. He brings in so much of scholastic knowledge. Killing is a sin, papa punya. What is his life? Immaterial, temporal. Then he gives him, okay, that kind of a thinking need to be there, means you got to renunciate everything. Renunciation is important. Sannyasam is important. You are not a sannyasi. You can't talk about it. Then he turn around and say, okay, I'll become a sannyasi. Tell me about sannyasam. I take sannyasam. Such a compassionate teacher Lord Krishna was. Okay, I'll tell you what is sannyasam. He talked about sannyasam. Then he said, after finishing sannyasam, therefore you do what you need to do. I said, why should I do this? No, you must do, because karma is important. Karma yoga is important. He talked about karma yoga. He was not happy. Well, I want to become a jnani first before I do it. And he said, you can't be a jnani because your mind is wandering. Arjuna said, yeah, my mind is wandering. It's like catching an air, catching the wind. I can't clone it. Yeah. Therefore, you do the duty. Krishna come back as a parrot. Do your duty. Arjuna said, but can you tell me, teacher, how to control my mind? Okay. He's pestering. So Krishna says, okay, take dhyana yoga. He started chapter 6 again. Dhyana yoga, do dhyana, do blah, blah, blah. I am the biggest, I am the all, I am Vishwarupam. You see, you're so small, but you can be me. Do your duty. So see, he keeps on repeating every time. But what happened? Even the great scholars have, maybe for good reason though, I don't know, they started segmenting this Bhagavad Gita from one single message of do what you ought to do rightfully, to karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga. It's like, when you have a sumptuous feast, you have a sweet one side, savory is one side, and like that you do. And then it became a scholastic debate. Bhakti yoga is better or karma yoga is better? Or you do karma yoga first, then become bhakti yoga, then kind of a steps you ladder. Jnana yoga. Oh, jnana is ultimate. So we go in this vain argument, missing the point. Tulsidas want to break all this. The essence of Bhagavad Gita, if you really have to ask, in the last chapter, he goes through all this and give everything, and then he say, Sarva Dharma Parityaja. Give up all these dharmas. Krishna, he always confuses you sometime, right? He tells you, Arjuna, I told you enough. Give up all your dharmas to me. I take care of it. And there was a huge debate in scholars. See, now he has told, give up all the karmas. So all the karma yoga you don't need to do. If you do jnana yoga, everything is fine. Again, mistaken. See what he said. Give up sarva dharma parityajya. You give everything unto me. Give your duty to me means it's not delegating Krishna to do your duty. You perform the duty on behalf of me, for me. He is a master communicator. He basically telling you, going back to the first message, you ought to do what you ought to do rightfully. So he's saying, but do it in my name. So therefore, if you take that approach, the whole Bhagavad Gita is nothing but karma yoga. Just have to do what you need to do. The problem is we don't know what need to do, how to be done. That's the reason why we go to Satsangh and classes. See, what about Bhakti and Jnana? Bhakti and Jnana are not something that you have to do and give up. It is an attitude. And the Jnana, it's like a two-sided coin. Without the Bhakti, you cannot do anything in the name of God. But to have this Bhakti, in the name of God, you must have the knowledge. So bhakti and jnanam are not two separate steps and you cross from the karma yoga. No. Karma yoga is what only thing we need to do. Bhakti and jnanam are to be inculcated, nourished in your attitude. To nourish that one, you do two things. You do Raja Yoga, you do all this dhyana, upasanas to control the mind, and you go to Satsangh. This message, what is the essence of Ramacharita. But here he says, the Mahamantram is Ramanama. By just using the Ramanama itself, everything will be fine. You know, once this, the king Yayadi, he was trying to hunt. He's trying to hunt a person, a human being. Maybe is running towards sage Vishwamitra. The human being actually is a Rakshasa, it's a demon. Okay. Vishwamitra, as ever, is full of powers and he always experiments with his powers and he says, I will protect you. But Yayadi shoots the arrow and kills this person. The person's ghost liberates as a Rakshasa and goes away. And but Vishwamitra's ego is hurt. How come you kill someone who I promised to protect? I'm going to command my disciple Rama, who is ruling Ayodhya, to punish you. So he sent a message to Rama, take care of Yayadi and kill him. Yayadi's feet should be on my, head should be on my feet. Yayadi got scared, you know. Vishwamitra Rishi's Shabam is so powerful and Lord Rama, who can stand in front of his Banam? So he runs away in fear. And of course, for the rescue, Sage Narada comes in and says, don't worry, just go up this mountain and there is the lady Anjana is there. Mata Anjana is there. Anjaneya's mom. Go and surrender to her. So he goes there and surrenders to Anjana. And she's generous-hearted, Deepkashpa. And he says, no, I cannot be. Ramabanam is going to chase me because this is what happened. She realizes her mistake and she says, okay, anyway, I have told this one. That is the time Anjaneya enters into the hut. And he says, Anjani Putra, you have to do a job for me. Said, anything you say, Mom? Yes, I have given protection to this king. You need to protect him from anybody. Said, done. In the name of Rama, I'll protect him. But then says, no, this is Rama is going to take his head off. Doesn't matter. I'll protect him. So the news goes to Rama's head. So what is this? Anjaneya is doing this. He's my disciple. I will command him to come to fight with me if he is protecting him. So Rama comes with all his bow, fully armored. Anjaneya also goes there with the Yayadi behind him. But without his gata, no Raidabani, he goes there and he says Ramanama. So Rama's putting arrows, but they all come there as a garland on him. Nothing happens to him. Then he says, Anjaneya says, Ramanama is glorious and that protects. Sri Rama says, so be it. Then Anjaneya asks the promise. Now you said, so be it. Let your promise be the case, that your name will protect everybody from suffering this world. And Rama therefore says, yes, it will so, and you bear the witness. So you stay in this world. As long as the Ramanama is there, you stay behind and ensure the protection is given. So this is kind of a Puranic legend, but you see, even Rama becomes incapable to Ramanama. What do you know, in Bhagavan Ramana, when they do bhajans, sometimes they say, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Ramana Pate. People sing. Now Ramana also sing, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Ramana Pate. And after some time, Muruganar asks him, Bhagavan, everybody is singing your praise, Ramana, Ramana. And you also sing your praise. Ramana says, Ramana is this body, it is everything. Sarva Brahma is, see, they don't even know it is praised. Everything is praised upon the Lord. So, that's why, Rama is gone. He goes to Sarayu river and his embodiment is gone. Krishna is gone. Somebody's poor arrow just comes, how can a little arrow kill Bhagavan? But they give up because form will go. Any god that you worship in the form will go. The pictures will go. Temples will get eroded. Vigrahas will go away and come back. That's why you don't have attachment to, you need them. You need them as a tool. But there must be a time that you give up the attachment. The whole life is an example of it, You nurture a beautiful child, or you nurture your partner or your parent, and then one day they die. They go away. The love has not lost, the relationship is not gone, the affection is not gone, the bhakti is not gone, the body is gone. It has to go. Because after all, it is not you. This is what we have been hammering in the Vedanta. Tatsubodha. The detachment needs to be there. The detachment is there, then how do I worship the God? Nama. Why Namam is better than the Rupam? Rupam is physical. If you need to draw a picture, I need a boundary. This is the artboard. Starting here, ending here. Finish. End has come. Start has come. Once I know the start and end, it is no more powerful. Gone. So you cannot have a God in any form. Even Bhagavan comes in Vishwarupa Darshanam, Mithya, it will go away. And it's gone. You see? This is not what the Islam says. Yes, Islam is the same thing. Advaita is the same thing. But again, you see, you cannot use that because in Islam, the truth is said like that. God is formless. But they took a misturn. Anybody worship form or infidels and wrong people, which is wrong thing. That is not the spirit of the Quran. But they also hear a symbol. They need a star. They need a crescent. They need a number. They need a green flag. You see, the mind needs to hold on to something. You cannot hold the infinite with your finite attitude. That's why Nama is a blessing. Nama is the only thing which is infinite, because once you say something, it goes on. It has no height, weight, three-dimensional attitude. But it has got a beginning, right? I say Rama, the sound Ra comes when I say Ra. It's got a beginning. No, I cannot say Rama unless my vritti says, say Rama. But Chitta vritti, vritti, we've gone to Patanjali Sutra. Vritti is not you make, it comes from samskaras. The vritti has to come. And it doesn't come straight away into sound. It comes through the para, pashyandi, madhyama, vaikri, Radha. You see, the sound therefore also has beginningless. And when I say Rama, Krishna, Shiva, whatever the name you say, it is there. You can see example of radio. What is radio? Radio is transmission of sound waves. It decays in strength. In fact, the strength is decayed in your hearing, because if you have a right transducer, receiver, amplifier, you can hear radio sound. So when you hear a radio, it is somebody's words, somewhere propagated. It is coming. Dura Shabdaga. Ashariri. Shruti. Vedas are like this. So every sound, you see, therefore this Shabda Pragasham is infinite. Again, in this there's a degree. See, Vedanta, that's why it always slices everything to small pieces for us to eat. Once you know this Nama Rupam is infinite, then the Shabda Artham is there. Artham is there, Shabdam is there. When I say laddu or barfi or something, when I say something with the artham on it, the meaning on it, it's also a sound. Why can't I worship as with the word barfi? You can. But because you attach a meaning to it, your vritti will come and say, start looking about this barfi sweet and the feast and the dinner, the party. Therefore, even though I need artham is a hindrance to me. That's why, sometimes the parents will say, they teach a shlogam to you, Bijananam, Buddhaganā Shevitam, or something like that. When you ask what is the meaning, they can teach the meaning. Sometimes don't worry about the meaning, just do it. Sanskrit, I do not know. Doesn't matter. Even better. You will never know the meaning. Just say it. Because we have an excuse. I can't say it because I don't know the meaning. That's completely a mistake. Because glad I don't know the meaning, I will say it. Because the meaning will distract me somewhere else. Then take one more step. Okay, now I'll give you Shabda Matram, Shabda Pramanam, Shabda Brahman. Om, Hreem, Shreem, Bija mantras. No meaning. For someone who doesn't understand, they'll say, this is meaningless noise, gibberish noise. So be it. But you know it, because that's what you call it. And then there is a pranava. Aum. You say, so it comes to the akara, ukara, makara, and it covers all the letters of the Sanskrit language, which contains all the shabdas. Therefore, this sound could be a pranavam, and this is the meaning of all names. So this omkara shabdam is same as Rama shabdam. Rama is same as omkara. Then Rama is Ra-A-Ma. It's a different topic. We can go different day for it. So therefore, the Rama shabdam is omkara shabdam. So Tulsidas took this single tenets to give salvation to everybody in the world. They don't need to worry about Sagana worship. I think he says, Upayagama Juga Sukama Namate Kaheyu Namupar Brahma Ramate. So there are two ways, Nirguna Brahman, Shaguna Brahman. But both are lower than Brahman and Ramamurti, and even that is lower than Ramanama. So he basically saying, Shaguna Nirguna Upashana, even if you worship as Rama Vigraha, is lower than Ramanama. He even raises the Nama much above even Nirguna Upashana. What is Nirguna Upashana? It's Pranava Upashana. So he is basically equating that or even bringing it above that. So that was his single motive. So what happened was, once upon a time, when he was doing this, he wanted to see Rama and Lakshmana, who were visible to the dacoits who came to the house, but not to me. So he's prays, he worships, and he's got a habit of finishing all the Sandhya Vandana in the morning and the afternoon, the evenings, and pour the water near a plant down there. And there was a Brahmarakshas who is a ghostly saint sitting on this plant, and he was being nourished by this water. This Panchamaha we talked about it. Every day must do 5 things, and one of them is to give water to plants and things. So this is basically feeding so many spirits, powers that are there, amanusya shaktis which are there around this world, which make things happen. Now, everything happens by an action. The action is happening because of mithya, that's a different thing. Actions happen. So if something changes, the weather changes, they say somebody sneezed, the weather changes. See? The karma is there. So there are kartas there. They have there is no body for them. They are there. So you have to feed them. So when he put the water, he is very pleased. One day that ghostly figure tells Tulsidas, I am very pleased with you. What do you want? Anything I can give you. What can he ask? His only desire is to ask for darshan of Rama and Lakshmana. You see, It is very interesting because he was preaching about Nama. He is even saying it's better than Saguna Triguna Upasana, but he longs to see them. This is why I like this very humanly. You can make him as an avatar, and then people say he's a Valmiki avatar. Even he says himself in the Ramacharitamanus, he's taking it very differently. People call me Valmiki avatar just because I use Ramanama. See, even for me, if I can get such a wonderful benefit of Ramanama, what can you not achieve? See, but see him as a very humble being who suffered in life, tortured in life. But he also wants to see, this is what it is. There is nothing wrong in us coming through in our mind to see the form of God, even though you have that Vedic knowledge. That is very natural. And there are living examples like Adi Shankara's approach in life, same way. So Tulsidas took the same way. He had a Shankara's Advaita Anubhuti in his mind, but he wants to see Rama and Lakshmana. So he says, what do I do? The ghost says, go to this Rama profession happens in that place. You go there.
Do not interrupt me.
And you see an old leper come there every day, and casual leper. So he goes there and he looks at him. There's an old man, and he always comes and goes. Comes early, goes late. During all this profession, he was only immersed with Ramanama. And he follows him and says, look, please show me Rama. He says, I can't show you. Go away. I don't know. He's not giving up. He just goes after him. Finally, he realizes that he was not going to leave me. Then that old person reveals himself as Anjaneya, Hanuman. And he tells him, go to Chitrakoot, which is a few kilometers away from this place. Go there and do this penance of Ramanama, and you will see. So he goes there and he sits there, sings Ramanama every day, take a bath in the river, sits under a banyan tree, and then says Ramanama. Nothing happens. And then as a practice, what he does is, you see that in North India, you find it very, very often in many temples. They have this chantan in a paste. And then whoever comes there, they will put their hair on, they put this tilak on it and go through. So he used to do that to everyone. But while doing it, he became in a trance, he just went to samadhi. That time, a young balaka comes in, stands in front of him, and he can see it. It's a Sampragyana Samadhi. You can see that Bala is standing there, but he's not doing anything. He's in a trance. Then the Balaka takes Chantan and then puts in Tulsidas' name. And then he disappears. At the time he hears Anjaneya singing, look, this Chantan is given by the Ramanama, and Rama is giving this Chantan to him. He wakes up and he sees Rama is gone, and momentary I saw him, and he's gone, he's crying. So with that, his resolve is now become a lot more stronger. And everywhere Rama, he goes to, like Mathura, he goes there, and he saw Krishna. I said, Goswami, where is your bow and arrow? How can I worship you? I don't see your bow and arrow. No, this looks like very, contradictory jnana, but it's a leela. And to his surprise, to everybody's surprise, the Mathura Krishna is instead of flute and this and the peacock feather in his hand with a bow and arrow for a moment, and he sings. And in fact, later, Surdas, his contemporary, makes fun of him and writes to him and says, look, you talk about Nirguna Advaita Jnanam and Ramanama Mahamahime and all that, but you can't even see in Krishna Vigraha the Parabrahman. So your bhakti is inferior. So therefore he writes Krishnavali. It's the only one that he has written not about Rama but about Krishna, but in that he makes Krishna as Rama. So Krishnavali he writes, and Surdas, who is a very ardent Krishna Bhakta, writes Ramavali and sends back to him. So this is how this jnana is exchanged among themselves to show that there's nothing that is uncommon between those two. And even the very famous Madhusudana Saraswati. By now you must all know his name, because in the Gita class we hear his name very often, right? Madhusudana Saraswati is a great scholar, and he was a contemporary of Tulsidas. And he says, Ananta Kanena Kashyam Tulas Jangamas Taruhu Kabita Manchuri Yasya Ram Brahmara Bhushita. He says, in the pleasant groves of Kashi, Banaras, Tulsidas is a beautiful tree which is adorned by the creeper called Tulasi. So basically he's saying he is a Kalpataru, giving everything. His identification is Tulsidasa. He says, go to Benares and there is a Kalpataru which is going to give you everything you want. He is known by Tulasi, that is wearing, the name that he holds. So such was his popularity. And he sings in what's called Doha. And simple couplets. Dohas are written in called Amukya Chantra. So it is not important. Each couplet doesn't need to correlate next couplet. So each one will be complete by itself. So he every time he goes, he sings two lines. And eventually he makes his Doha Vali as a collection of 573 verses, which talks about everything in life, ethics, morality. He abuses many of the social injustices. I think there was a legend about his meeting with Akbar, the emperor, how he revered him. And also I think later stages, I think Jahangir was a king of Delhi, and he hears about miracles of Tulsidas. It's called Goswami Tulsidas. Goswami, that age means one who controls your senses. Gocharam is all those sensual organs. Basically Mahayogi. Chitta Vritti Nirodham is attained. So Jahangir calls him and says, come and do a miracle in my palace. He thinks a magician. But these same sages in whose life miracles happen, they will not know, they do not know they are doing miracles. They do not know. It's not they do it. It happens out of them. I had many instances of that, stories of that with Kanchi Mahapariva as well. When you are a very reverential frame of mind, you see, you smell, you hear things which others may not be able to hear, see things, and you do not know, others do not know. You just do it as normal, and it looks like an innovation, inspiration. You think, hey, isn't it? Everybody knows it. And this is what happened to rishis. So when the Vedas came out of them, and they said it's a monism. It's not coming from me. See? So Jahangir says, do the magic. And he says, I can't do magic. I only know Rama Nama. That's the magic I can do. Do it. I sit there, he said, Rama, Rama, Rama. Nothing happens. So he put them in the prison. Okay, let me see how you get out of it. That's really a miracle. And that's the time, I think, he sang the very most famous Hanuman Chalisa. Sri Guru Charana Sharodaka. 41 beautiful couple of dohas and couplets. It's talking about Mahavir's glory. See, what is the most paradoxical thing about Anjaneya is Mahavir. He is Parabrahma, not Parameshwara. He doesn't know it. He doesn't know his glory, doesn't know his power. That glory was kindled by Ramanama. You see now, You can have an enormous potential. I can have a nuclear bomb. I can't never use it. It may be determined, but it's no use. So the trigger of creating Kriya Shakti is more important. It's Parabrahma. So you see the Shakti dormant, what the Prakriti cannot do. It cannot do anything without Parabrahma, the Purusha. The Ramanama is a Purusha. Anjaneya is the Shakti. If Rama is a Parabrahma, Sita is a Mahashakti. This is what Adhyatma Ramayana talks about it. So when he worshipped Anjaneya, the story is that hundreds and thousands of monkeys paraded into the Jahangir's palace in the prison. They looted the place. And then Jahangir got so happy that he can see the miracle like that. And then he not only released him, he honored him and gave a lot of silver coins and gold coins to Tulsidas, which he used to build the famous temple in Kashi, Shankarastra temple, Anjaneya temple in the banks of river Ganges. When I went there, it was so beautiful. There are so many monkeys, very small temple, a tree there. So he did that one there. He has written a number of books, Kavita Ramayana, Kavitavali and Gitavali. Okay, about what? Make a guess. Rama. Except one book about Krishnavali. Again, Krishna becomes Rama. Everything is about Rama. Gitavali is singing Rama's name in 330 different ragas and songs. And Kavitavali is another interesting Sanskrit chandas. 34 syllables. First 4. It's very difficult to write, but it's very beautifully rhyming words. Then Ramalila Nagachu. The Nagachu means, before the wedding ceremony, the groom is cut the nails. We call it a churadhan, cut your hair, shave up everything. Basically, making yourself pretty. And so he talks about Rama's, Sita's wedding. Before that, what happened? Nagachuda songs. He took a lot of liberty, in Valmiki. In Valmiki Ramayana, there is no Swayamvara. Janaki was not waiting, parading with a lot of princes coming there to marry him. No, neither Kambar and Tulsi they add this one. Tulsidas adds this one, Swayamvara. In Valmiki, it's not like that. Same way, in Valmiki Ramayana, there's only the Ravana comes twice to fight. In Tulsidas, no, it's just once he comes there. And very important change he made. There's one poorly thought through accusation two accusations. One is that Sita is all powerful, Pativrata. How did Ravana lift her in his hand and took it to Sri Lanka? And then why is Rama, all-knowing avatar, ask Sita to go into the Agni Pariksha? In Valmiki, it's very straightforward. That's how it happened. He's a king, and when everybody talks ill about the queen, and you know about the queen very well, therefore you say, I hate you, all of you people, I don't like you, I'll give up, I trust my wife, I don't like you, I go away. He could do that. But he was the Raja, he's a king. He need to solve everybody's thing. He knows Sita's mind, Sita knows Rama's mind. If these people want it, Sita, would he do it? You see? That's how that thing was, Dharma is. But nothing is accepted by Tulsi. He said, look, I need to reach this to everybody in this world. So they are looking at the avatar as 100% from the common layman's mind. And nothing can be impure, nothing can be questionable, nothing can be brought to court. So therefore, he makes a story where when they were in the kutil, Lakshmana goes out and brings food to them every day. And Rama and Sita were talking to each other, and Rama tells Sita, time has come So you get into your Prakriti, you get into the your Moolam. Ravana is going to come and they're going to take your embodiment. Then Sita gets into the fire, leaving a duplicate Sita, a illusory Sita, as Jivan, with the Jiva Bhavam, not with the Atma Bodha. Very subtle. Let's not dwell deeper into this. But the story goes like this. So there is a duplicate Sita there. That Sita is what Ravana is carrying. And but Rama still goes and fights because Ravana did something wrong. Rama Avatar's purpose is to eradicate Ravana. Therefore, he uses the excuse. Go there on en route. He brings the law even to the Vanara kingdom. See, Vanara in Valmiki Ramayana, Vanara is not monkeys. Vana Naras, they're all tribal people. So they have a different civilization, but still there are Manushas. So Dharma has to be there. So this picturization of Wali abducting somebody's wife and say, this is fine for me, this is not your Dharma, it's not right. So in every way he establishes it, brings it back, and then to get the duplicate disappear and the Atma Bodham come back, Shita come back, Agni Pariksha is done. So this is kind of explanation that people give, and this is what Ramacharasmanis does. So so like this, there are subtle changes in the Ramayana of Tulsidas. But the beauty is not in this Ramacharitam. It is in the, what I call it, the Chandam, the poetry, the bhakti, is unbelievable. Yeah. Then I think it's, yeah. So he gets into as he gets older, he gets the pain in his arms and fingers. Maybe it's kind of arthritis or bone disease or something like that. So it's becoming difficult for him to bear it. So that is the time he started writing called Vinaya Patrika. So Vinaya Patrika means very submissive appeal to the court of the lords. So he imagines a court where Lord Ganesha, Surya, Rama, Yamuna, Ganges, all are there. And he writes in poetry, appeal to them. For example, what is this law that you impose on me? The meaning goes like this, that I know that this is mithya, but I still get entangled. So what is the justification for it? He starts pushing, basically saying, look, if I'm suffering, what is your law? What is your order? What are you putting me into this? It takes a life itself as a punishment, So why are you doing this, We invite punishment ourselves, We have a cell phone, cell means prison, Today our punishment is we entangle in the cell phone all the time. So it is, but we get into punishment without knowing. But Tulsidas inverted this. He took, life is freedom, my life is free. If I have even an iota of doubt that I'm not free, that is an injustice that you caused. You put the blame on this court of law of the lords, correct me. And in this court, he writes to Hanuman Bahu. Bahu means arm. He's got arm's pain. So he writes to Anjaneya, why are you giving me this pain? This body is painful. And of course, the story goes, the pain has gone away, and he's continued to do that. So the Vinaya Patrika is around 279 beautiful hymns, all in very simple Hindi. I think we have to look for it, study those things. There are a lot of literature. If you go to the internet, and there are books translating into so many languages. But I think the important point that we must understand is Tulsidas gave us a very simple way to lead our life. The simple way is, don't worry about not knowing Shastric knowledge. Hold on to Ramanama. And again, Okay, you can say, I want to take Krishna Nama, fine, doesn't matter. But what is it? The Nama that you choose, in which you surrender, completely give up, and never move away from this. I mean, what more a testimony we need? Swami Vivekananda quotes Tulsidas. He says that when he got abused, Vivekananda got abused quite a lot of time. And he quotes Tulsidas couplets and says, when an elephant comes into the marketplace, every curb barks, everybody is saying something about it, but the elephant doesn't care. It has its majestic gait and walk away. Like that, sages come and go. They don't care. And then Tulsidas says, again, Vivekananda quotes, all sweetness of all, sit with the sweetness, take from everybody else the sweetness, but you stay firm and you go where you need to go. In other words, you don't need to be deviating from everybody else, because by physically and psychologically telling them that you don't fit with them and go away, you don't need to do that. You be with a part of the society. Be sweet to others, take the sweet from others, but don't move from your principles. Don't move from your way of life. Now, this is wonderful because, otherwise you will have the elite class of renunciated sages going somewhere, finding redemption for themselves. The masses of us staying behind. He says, if you are a Mahatma, it is not just because you are wearing a special dress and sitting somewhere in a pedestal and calling anybody Ajnani, because the moment you call anybody Ajnani, you are no more a Jnani. Bhagavan, Ramanuj, cannot see anybody as Ajnani. That's his problem. He always says, look, some of the answers that he gives looks very funny, because why are you asking this? It makes it so obvious. Swami, why don't you think about it? Then he said, think. Is there something called mind? And it beats the hell out of us. And what is this? If mind is not there, how can you think? But for him, the mind is not there because he is mindless in the sense the vritti comes and goes. Aparokshanya. Just like that. So this is the stage. So, but they live only when they live amongst us, we can get their light. This is what Tulsidas says, and this is what Vivekananda quotes. The sages come, when you have a sagely life and you have a spiritual life, adapt to the environment, adapt to everybody else, and live happily. So, I think in 1623, in one of these ghats called Asighat in Varanasi, he has attained Mahasamadhi, Jala Samadhi, that's what they say. So he remains in everybody's tongue in the heart as one of the greatest poet saint of 16th century. So we pray to him. Om Asadoma Sadgamaya.
Om Asatoma Satgamaya.
Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya.
Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya.
Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya.
Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Shanti.
Hari Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Namaskar.